Hi, welcome back. My name is Surya, and this is the third video in our series on how to write body paragraphs for static bar charts. In the previous two videos, we worked on the children's activities and transport preferences graphs. You can check them out using the links in the description. Today, we'll move on to another type of static bar chart, citizens' expenditure in the UK. Unlike the earlier graphs, this one involves age groups and multiple spending categories, which means our focus will be on grouping information and comparing how spending changes with age. Let's begin. Let's look at the bar graph here. It shows citizens' expenditure in the UK. The three categories are food and drink, restaurants and hotels, and entertainment. On the x-axis, the data is organized by age group, from people under 30 to those over 76. For each age group, there are 3 bars, showing how much they spent on each category. Now, here is where many students struggle. With so many bars, it's hard to decide where to start. Should you go age group by age group or category by category? If you try to describe everything separately, the writing becomes too long and repetitive. The key is to group the data logically. This approach avoids repetition, keeps your description concise, and makes your essay easier to follow. So, how should we actually organize this description? There are 2 possible approaches. The first is by spending category: food and drink, restaurants and hotels, and entertainment. This is the stronger approach because it allows us to group the data logically and describe clear patterns, such as food spending increased with age or restaurant spending declined among older people. The second approach is by age group: under 30s, 31 to 45, and so on. This is less effective because you end up repeating the same comparisons for each group. For example, food was highest, followed by entertainment, then restaurants. That's why for IELTS, the category-based approach is best. It helps you avoid saying the same thing again, keep your writing focused, and makes the overall trends stand out. Since we have chosen to organize the description by spending category, let's move on to the vocabulary we need. Instead of repeating the word spending all the time, we can use alternatives like expenditure, accounted for, made up, represented the largest share, or constituted a certain percentage. We can also describe patterns using trend language. For example, expenditure on food and drink increased with age, or spending on restaurants and hotels declined with age. Now, you might be wondering, isn't this a static bar chart? Should we really use words like increased or declined? Normally, trend language is used in line graphs or dynamic bar charts that show changes over time. But in this case, the age groups are arranged in order, almost like a progression. That means it's acceptable to say spending on food and drink rose steadily with age, because we are describing a clear upward trend across the age categories. Finally, when comparing categories, we can use phrases like across all age groups, in contrast, or followed by. These sets of words give us flexibility and allow us to describe the chart clearly without repeating the same phrases. Since we are following the category-based approach, our sentences will focus on each spending category and show how it changes across age groups. For the highest and lowest, we can say the highest expenditure on food and drink was in the over 76 group at around 23%, or the lowest expenditure on restaurants and hotels was in the 61 to 75 age group at only 2%. For age-related patterns, we can use trend language. For example, expenditure on food and drink rose steadily with age, reaching 23% in the over 76 group. Or spending on restaurants and hotels declined with age, falling to just 2% among the 61 to 75 age group. Another option is expenditure on entertainment peaked at about 23% in the 61 to 75 age group. And for comparisons, we might say, across all age groups, people spent more on food and drink than on restaurants and hotels. Or, in contrast, younger people spend significantly more on restaurants and hotels than older people. These sentence structures match the category-based approach and help us avoid the repetition that comes with the age group method. To describe this graph clearly, it helps to group the information into three categories. First, food and drink rose steadily with age, reaching the highest share in the 76 plus group. Restaurants and hotels peaked among the under 30s, but declined to the lowest point in the 61 to 75 group before rising slightly again. Entertainment increased until the 61 to 75s, then dropped considerably in the oldest group. By noticing these patterns, you can describe the data logically without repeating yourself or describing every single bar. Here is a model paragraph combining the first two categories. Notice how it flows logically. One category rising with age, the other declining, with a small exception at the end. This way, we group the data effectively without repeating ourselves. Feel free to pause here and read the complete paragraph. Now it's your turn. Already we have seen the description of two categories. Choose entertainment category from this graph and write a short paragraph of about 3 to 4 sentences. Remember to include the highest and lowest age groups and describe how the spending changes across the age groups. Use the phrases on the slide to help you. Pause the video, write your paragraph, and then compare it with the model given on the next slide. Here is a model answer for the entertainment category. Notice how I used different vocabulary. Instead of repeating increased steadily from earlier paragraph, I used climbed gradually. And instead of fell, I wrote dropped marginally. This short paragraph works because it covers the highest, the lowest, and the overall trend clearly, using flexibility in language and variety in sentence structures. That brings us to the end of this 3-part series on describing static bar charts. Across these lessons, we've explored how to organize body paragraphs in static bar charts. We started with the basics of ordering from highest to lowest, then moved on to making comparisons across groups, and finally looked at grouping categories to keep writing concise and logical. Along the way, we also practiced using a wide range of vocabulary and sentence structures. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you found these lessons useful, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more IELTS writing strategies. And please check the playlist for other Task 1 and Task 2 lessons. See you in the next video.